And we're live. What's up, everyone? I wanted to talk about the carnivore diet, the keto diet, low carb, high fat diet, standard American diet in terms of your vitamins and minerals that are affecting your thyroid gland. So, the first thing is, can you do a carnivore or keto diet with a thyroid problem? Yes. How you do it is everything, because if you do not get the right nutrients, right? So a lot of people on carnivore are just doing a bunch of ribeyes. If in ground beef, if you do not get enough nutrients on these diets and you're not adapted because your fat's too low, you can compromise the production of your thyroid hormone of T4 and T3. Now, let's talk about, because a lot of people are concerned about their vitamins and minerals. I was talking about B6 for a multitude of things, especially healing the gut, right? With leaky gut, B6 are like, but taking a lot of B6 is really dangerous. And I'm like, I never told you guys to take a B6 supplement. I told you to look at liver, which is very rich in vitamin B6. Yes. So we're trying to deal with histamine and the making of histamine and diamine oxidase, like histamine, the down regulation of histamine, and the vitamins and the minerals that help either stabilize histamine, produce diamine oxidase, lower histamine, things of this nature. But my animals, my pony, let's talk about the thyroid for a second. Now, a lot of women have low thyroid function. In fact, all these consultations I do when I speak to people and I'm sitting there going over all the details in my notepad, I'm like, they're tick boxing thyroid symptoms, which is like tired, can't lose weight, cold hands, or they're hyperthyroid where they're like this, or they have like tingling in their fingertips, or depression, or they can't poop, or their hair is dry or thinning, and they might or constipation, they might tick box one symptom and not all, or two or three. But at the end of the day, when I'm looking at how tired people are, or how women are having a hard time dropping body fat and they're estrogen dominant, things of this nature, and the cortisol's high, because I also spoke about pregnenolone steal and how your body starts just cortisol, and that affects the thyroid through the HPA axis. So we need nutrition for the thyroid, for everything else, but the thyroid's a really good indicator of everything else. Iodine. A lot of you guys are not getting enough iodine in your diet by eating a lot of freaking ribeyes and red meat. Like, be very careful. And then they'll tell you to go, and your electrolytes are out of balance, and they'll tell you to do keto, chow, or element. They're not actually thinking about getting these electrolytes, or especially minerals, through food. They're like, oh, take that potassium iodide drops, which are not good. They're kind of dangerous. They're very dangerous. So let's talk about it. These charts are so annoying, right? When you're Googling stuff. They're very, very boring. But the first couple lines I want you guys to listen to. Potassium iodide is in your Lugos and all these like products where people are saying on carnivore to take potassium iodide. It is a chemical compound medication. Problem number one, chemical. Okay, so let's break this down. Let me take you back. All right. We don't want chemicals. We don't want chemicals. If you can get iodine from the sea, amazing. But there's other places and other things and other foods you can get iodine. So I wanted to kind of go over iodine, because if you're taking potassium iodide, you're doing chemicalized iodine in concentrated amounts. And iodine, potassium iodide without selenium can actually give you thyroid cancer. But your doctors aren't telling you that. So you're running out and you're putting all these drops and everything, not realizing that you can actually make the thyroid worse on potassium iodide. The safest way is to find it in food, because you got to get through the fat and the muscle tissue and all these types of things to get to your iodine, which is coming from the sea. And it's not a chemical compound. It's nature's finest. All right, so let's talk about it. What are some foods that are highest in iodine? Well, obviously seaweed is very, very high. We got seaweed, but which is great. You can use kelp, and kelp is very high in iodine, which is fantastic. But what's even better is shellfish. So shellfish, like oysters, they're very, very, very high in iodine. And also things like salmon and whether sea snapper. Also, things I didn't realize have iodine are, besides seafood, is eggs, and liver has very low amounts, 32 micrograms. Eggs have 48 to 52. Cod has 87. The seaweed they use for sushi has 92. Oysters have 144. And kelp has 350 micrograms of freaking iodine that won't blow out your thyroid with cancer. I'm just saying. Liver, I freaking love liver. You know why I love liver? Because it's got small amounts of iodine, but it also it's high in zinc and copper. Now, oysters are high in zinc and copper, but liver is higher and richer in B2 and B12. Super important. It's also high in B5 and B3, and of course, the B6. But we don't have to worry about the toxicity levels because we're not taking supplemental concentrated B6. We're just taking it from Mother's Finest. This is what I love about liver and shellfish and oysters. So clams. Now I want to talk about potassium also, which is very, very important. Potassium is, because if that's one subject, people are like, where do I get my potassium? You can get it from oysters. You can get it from clams. So clams are super, super high in potassium if you cannot do avocados. Mollusks are high. Clams are high in potassium because a lot of you guys cannot do freaking avocados. But pork is high. The meat itself, the leaner the meat, the higher the potassium. And chicken breast, not my favorite, but it's high in potassium. Now, if I get back to you guys, let's get rid of this. This is just a quick video. I want to remind people that you cannot, and I mean you cannot do keto or carnivore without making sure you get adequate amounts of potassium, magnesium, sodium, and water. Okay, period. That's for everyone, irregardless of the thyroid. A lot of people are doing a lot of meat with salt, and they're not getting all of these minerals that they need to have the body function properly, to have their cells be hydrated, the communication between cells. And so this whole 4,700 milligrams of potassium you might hear from other gurus is absolute garbage. If you calculated how much potassium you get out of 4,000, it would be just enormous amounts of seafood or an enormous amounts of avocados that wouldn't make any sense, like 8 avocados. So I noticed with people and their symptoms with heart palps are a big indication, especially in the daytime, of a potassium deficiency. Also nausea is also a sign of potassium deficiency when you're doing carnivore or keto, so look out for those symptoms. The little twitches in your eye, those kind of weird things. But the locking up of the legs is magnesium typically, especially at night. And the locking up of your ribs is the potassium and magnesium. Obviously, I recommend magnesium glycinate up to 400 milligrams a night, at least 1 avocado a day. And if you can't do avocado, you can do a meat broth with pork, or you can do it with chicken breast. And if y'all have histamine, cook it 45 minutes and be done. Okay, what you can do a pressure cooker for 10. It's the bacteria growing on this in the water. That's the problem. That's why people react. Some, not all. A lot of people with histamine intolerance don't do well with fish. Some do. Some can do clams and mollusks and oysters. Often many can't. So you just have to go and experiment, because the iodine is a huge crisis for people who are already having a iodine deficiency or a thyroid insufficiency through stress, through not getting enough of their nutrients. I'm like, I'm supposed to have people help me come and help me with the land today, so I better end this video. Okay, This is just a short video reminding you how important it is to balance your electrolytes. Don't do Element, don't do Keto Chow, don't do these powders that you found on Amazon. Try to always get it from real food first. And when it comes to the minerals of selenium and iodine, the sea, especially shellfish, if you guys can tolerate it. If you cannot, you're going to have to try to get it from things like, especially iodine, kelp or salmon or shrimp or tuna. Not my favorite because you get little toxins in there. But if you really need that iodine because you're starting to grow a goiter or your T3 is starting to drop and you're not making enough thyroid hormone, you need that iodine, but you also need selenium. Yes. Liver. So liver, 1 to 2 ounces a day will suffice. Do not worry about the toxicity of liver unless you have an iron overload, hematomacrosis, or you're trying to eat a polar bear. Okay. Or severe leaky gut. All right, guys, just be careful when you're doing a keto or carnivore diet, especially with your electrolytes. Women, most of you are having an underlying thyroid problem. The testing is very subjective. I don't care if you had your TSA tested. I've done a video on this. Be freaking careful, because once you are not adapted and your fats are too low and your protein's too high and your body starts spiraling, yeah, well, I have a whole video series on it. Energy! Don't forget to like up the stream, comment below, share this content. My Instagram is Stephanie Ketogenic. My course page is stephanieperson.com. You can book a consultation through stephanieperson.com. I'm about to open up more dates where we can go and go right at the problem, because this girl's been doing this for a long time. So I've learned a lot. And I'm out. Energy. Yes. I'm going on 16 years of strict keto. I'm my own N=1 experimentation. Girls getting younger and almost, well, on our way to be 56. Peace. Out. I gotta go work out today too, because that's something y'all we need to talk about is workouts. What? Bye.